The bitter wind cut through the forest like knives, and the snow blanketed every contour of the land, leaving nothing but an endless white canvas. Soldiers weren't just battling enemies, they were battling visibility. One careless step, one wrong movement, and the snow itself could betray them. Winter warfare in World War II demanded more than courage. It demanded ingenuity, subtlety, and an intimate understanding of the frozen landscape. Camouflage wasn't just paint on a helmet or a white coat, it was survival. Today, we dive into 8 World War II snow camouflage secrets that turned freezing soldiers into near-invisible shadows on a white battlefield, tactics often overlooked in modern accounts but critical to the survival and success of those enduring the harshest winters of the war. Winter uniforms were never enough on their own. Soldiers quickly learned that uniforms alone, even white ones, weren't sufficient in a landscape riddled with shadows, dark branches and patchy snow. The solution was simple but ingenious. Soldiers improvised whitewash for their gear. This wasn't paint in the traditional sense, but a mixture of chalk, lime or powdered snow mixed with a small amount of water to create a paste. Helmets, rifles and even wooden crates were coated, reducing contrast against the snow and preventing the dark outlines that betrayed a position to distant observers. The application required careful attention to avoid dripping or uneven patches, which could create unnatural streaks. The result was astonishing. Even enemy scouts with binoculars found it difficult to distinguish a single figure amidst the whiteness of a forest clearing or open field. Soldiers also used a counterintuitive technique, leveraging the sun's glare and snow's reflective surface to their advantage. While bright snow could blind the eyes, it could also mask movements. Units learned to position themselves at angles where the sunlight would reflect into enemy lines, creating a shimmering distraction. A soldier moving slowly in a shaded patch behind a snowbank could become nearly invisible against the blinding background. It was an early form of optical deception, turning environmental hazards into tactical assets. The knowledge required precise timing, an understanding of sun angles, and patience, proving that camouflage in snow was as much a science as an art. The forest was both friend and foe. Trees and brush offered natural cover, but dark branches could betray a soldier against the white backdrop. To counteract this, soldiers would weave snow onto branches, breaking up the sharp contrast. Twigs were often coated with snow or mud, creating visual noise that mimicked natural irregularities. In open areas, soldiers sometimes piled snow around themselves to create mound shapes resembling terrain features, allowing them to lie flat while breaking up their human outline. These techniques required meticulous attention to detail, as even a small inconsistency in snow coverage could draw an enemy's eye. Through careful observation of natural patterns, soldiers turned the environment itself into a camouflage assistant. While white-dominated winter camouflage, shadows, remained a persistent threat. Snow reflected light in unpredictable ways, creating these unnatural shadows that could, easily reveal a soldier's presence. Soldiers countered this with an unexpected tool, soot and ash. By lightly dusting exposed equipment, uniforms, or even areas of the snow itself, they could reduce the unnatural starkness of shadows. Ash scattered over a rifle barrel, a pack, or a helmet reduced glare, making the soldier blend more convincingly with both light and dark patterns. This small but effective adjustment really showcased the improvisation necessary for winter survival, turning remnants of fires into a life-saving camouflage technique. In snowy terrain, footprints and tracks were frankly lethal giveaways. Soldiers quickly understood that their survival depended on controlling or disguising their movement trails. Techniques included deliberately breaking up footprints with snow from other areas, backtracking along natural depressions, or using fallen branches to obscure paths. In extreme conditions, troops would march single file and then carefully cover tracks with snow, mud or debris. Commanders often emphasized that stealth in winter wasn't just about hiding bodies. It was about controlling the story of movement across a battlefield. One careless step could compromise an entire unit's position, making track management as critical as body concealment. By the mid-war years, specialized camouflage nets were issued to units operating in winter conditions. However, the nets alone weren't enough. Soldiers learned to integrate snow directly into these coverings. Nets were dusted with fresh powder or lightly packed with snow to replicate natural snowfall patterns. The key was understanding texture and depth. Snow had to be applied so it clung to the netting without collapsing or melting quickly. The integration of artificial and natural elements allowed positions, observation posts, and even vehicles to vanish into the snowy landscape, demonstrating how materials and environmental awareness combined to produce nearly invisible setups. Winter camouflage wasn't only about uniforms and gear, it extended to exposed skin. Faces, hands and necks were visible signals in an otherwise white environment. Soldiers used improvised white cloth, snow paste or even flour in some cases to reduce contrast on exposed skin. Layering scarves, mittens and hoods ensured minimal exposure. These methods were surprisingly effective, as even a fleeting glimpse of a dark nose or glove could compromise concealment. Winter camouflage demanded full-body awareness where every inch of skin could either reveal or protect. Soldiers who mastered these details often survived ambushes or prolonged observation periods that would have otherwise been deadly. Finally, soldiers turned snow itself into a physical barrier for both protection and concealment. Snowbanks, drifts and frozen mounds were reshaped to create temporary foxholes, observation points or defensive positions. Unlike wooden or sandbag fortifications, these snow constructions were invisible from a distance. Units would sculpt the snow carefully, carving recesses for rifles or small groups, ensuring that edges blended naturally with the surrounding terrain. These fortifications not only provided cover from fire and wind, but also allowed soldiers to operate in full concealment. The ephemeral nature of snow meant constant maintenance, yet the payoff, protection from both elements and the enemy, was unmatched in open winter landscapes. Winter camouflage in World War II was not a matter of simple clothing or luck. It was a complex interplay of observation, improvisation and adaptation. Soldiers survived by turning natural hazards into advantages, understanding light, shadow and terrain as tools of survival, and leveraging ordinary materials in extraordinary ways. Chalk, ash, paper, snow, and even sunlight became instruments of invisibility, blending human presence seamlessly into the frozen world. Modern warfare studies often overlook these subtle techniques, but for those enduring the bitterest winters, they were the difference between life and death. Knowledge of these methods offers more than historical curiosity. It illuminates the resilience, creativity and sheer determination of men who endured conditions most would find unimaginable today. The lessons of World War II winter camouflage are as much about psychology and observation as they are about fabric and snow. Every adjustment, every improvised layer reflected a soldier's will to survive when nature and conflict collided. If you found this exploration into World War II snow camouflage as fascinating as the soldiers who lived it, make sure to subscribe to In the Beginning for more in-depth historical insights. Share this with fellow history enthusiasts who appreciate the forgotten details of wartime ingenuity. Because the lessons of survival, adaptation and creativity are timeless, and in history they are never truly lost.